Welcome to the session on Fundamentals of Videography. Camera operators need to know their camera so well that they don't need to think about it technically. That knowledge allows them to spend their time shooting creatively in a way that effectively communicates. The video camera is a transducer, a device that changes energy from one form to another. The input to the video camera is light energy, its output electrical energy. There are many different kinds of transducers, but they are all related in the sense that they are energy changers. A battery is a transducer changing chemical to electrical energy, and so is an electric light bulb changing electrical energy to light energy. Types of video cameras. Several types of video cameras are available for professional use. Each camera type offers unique benefits and restrictions. Studio cameras. A television camera placed on a tripod or a studio pedestal for exclusive use within the studio. The studio camera is usually very large and too heavy to be used as a remote camera in the field. Because of its size, studio camera may be placed on a three-legged stand called tripod for support. To allow smooth camera movement, the feet of the tripod are placed into a three-wheeled cart called dolly. A studio pedestal is another common type of camera support. The camera is attached to a large single column on wheels that is pneumatically or hydraulically controlled. The size, weight and mount of the studio camera dictate that it not be taken out of the studio. Each studio camera comes with a camera control unit, that is CCU, sometimes referred to as a remote control unit or RCU. The CCU is a piece of equipment that controls the video signal sent from the camera and is usually placed in the control room or the master control room. The CCU controls many signals from the camera, including the color, tint, contrast and brightness. The video engineer manipulates the CCU controls to match the signal from each camera involved in the shoot. Camcorders. Professional camcorders are lightweight portable cameras, see figure, but are not usually quite as small as consumer camcorders. Professional models have many more internal components. The professional camcorder is a television camera and recorder in one unit and is relatively simple to take into the field. While in use, it is placed on the operator's right shoulder or on a field tripod. Convertible cameras. A convertible camera may be purchased with a variety of accessory packages that make it operational in a studio, as a portable field camera or both. Many small-scale studio purchase convertible cameras because they are adaptable to a variety of situations and are often less expensive than larger studio cameras. The parts of the camera. When we look at a camera, we see one mechanism. Actually, camera has several separate elements, separate mechanisms working together to create the video image. We call this camera system. Each element of the system has its own function and role in creating a video image. Not all the cameras have all of these parts physically tied to each other. We need to think of these mechanisms as separate. This way, you can better understand a video camera system. In this lesson, we will be discussing the different parts of the video camera and defining their functions. Let us define what these parts and functions are. The lens. The lens is an assembly of several glass discs placed in a tube on the front of a camera. Its primary purpose is to concentrate or focus the incoming light rays on the surface of the imaging device or the target. A picture is considered to be in focus when the adjoining lines of contrast are as sharp as possible. Video cameras are outfitted many different lenses to give a respectable range from wide angle to a normal to telephoto. The full range of these can be witnessed by zooming the lens. By zooming, you are moving the lens closer or further from the CCD. The zoom occurs as the lenses move back and forth inside the camera and optically magnify the image. Digital zoom sounds great, but is essentially useless as it only magnifies and therefore pixelates the image received by the CCD. A normal lens that replicates objects with a similar perspective to the human eye for television covers a horizontal area of about 25 degrees. This is the most natural perspective for the viewing audience. A wide-angle lens covers a larger area at closer distances to the camera. It is useful for handheld work in crowded or confined areas such as the back seat of a car, because wide-angle shots tend to hide camera movement. Wide-angle lenses magnify depth, making picture elements appear more spaced apart than in reality. Focusing is less critical and depth of field is increased. Telephoto lenses. They allow the selective isolation of parts of the subject from a distance. Such shots compress depth, slowing perceived movement toward and away from the camera. So-called telephoto compression shots of a faraway subject running or walking seem to stretch out, creating a more unified image. Because camera movement with this type of lens is exaggerated, it is best to use a tripod with a telephoto lens. The zoom lens. A zoom lens is a variable focal length lens. It allows the camera operator to zoom in and zoom out on a subject without moving the camera forward or backward. The zoom lens enables the camera operator to select any coverage within its range. Most video and television cameras come with optical zoom lenses. An optical zoom uses a lens to magnify the image and send it to the chip. The optical zoom retains the original quality of the camera's chips. The majority of today's video cameras are equipped with variable focal length zoom lenses which combine normal, wide angle and telephoto capabilities. A zoom lens can operate at any focal length in its range. Gain control. Gain is the strength of the video signal. Some cameras have a gain select or gain switch, while others may have the feature available through a menu option. On a studio camera, the control may be located on the CCU. If this function is available, you should be aware of its effect on the recorded image. Improper use of the gain switch can result in unusable footage. Adjusting this control allows the strength of the signal going from the camera to the recorder to be increased or decreased. The white level, black level, color and tint are equally affected when the gain setting is changed. Depth of field. The area in front of the camera that appears sharp in the frame is called depth of field. Depth of field is defined as the range of acceptable focus on a shot. Depth of field is an important concept for cinematographers and camera operators to master because they often need to manipulate focus to achieve a desired effect. Selective focus, for instance, draws the audience attention to a specific portion of the frame. Depth of field can be either shallow or deep. Shallow depth of field is the kind in which part of the frame is soft or out of focus. Thus, the areas of focus or sharpness are limited. Deep depth of field, on the other hand, is the kind in which the entire frame from the foreground to the background is sharp or in focus. Three factors affect depth of field. 1. Aperture. 2. Focal length. And 3. Focus distance. Aperture. The aperture is the opening at the rear end of the lens that determines how much light travels through the lens and falls on the image sensor. The size of the aperture's opening is measured in f-stops, one of two sets of numbers on the lens barrel, the other being focusing distance. The f-stops work as inverse values, such that a small f number, say f2.8, corresponds to a larger or wider aperture size, which results in a shallow depth of field. Conversely, a large f number, say f16, results in a small or narrower aperture size and therefore a deeper depth of field. Focal length. The focal length of the lens does appear to have a significant impact on depth of field, with longer lenses producing more blur. A 200 millimeter lens focused at 12 feet will have a wafer thin depth of field compared to a 20 millimeter lens focused at 12 feet. Focus distance. Focus distance is the last factor to determine the depth of field. The closer the focus is to the camera, the bigger depth of field is. You probably have noticed this. On close-ups of actors or objects, part of the frame is usually blurrier than on wide shots of landscapes. Autofocus. Many video cameras are fitted with an automatic focusing feature. This is a useful device for the occasions when the camera operator is preoccupied with following the action, is not sure where the subject is going to move next, and might get the focusing wrong in the heat of the moment. If the camera operator relies entirely on the automatic focus features in the camera, the resulting images will vary greatly. The autofocus system simply sharpens the focus in a selected zone of the shot, irrespective of what is appearing there. So, it needs to be used with care. What is exposure? Every video camera requires a certain amount of light to function effectively and produce quality images. However, the chips can only handle a limited range of tones. If the amount of light from a surface exceeds the chip's upper limit, it will reproduce as white in the video picture. It will burn out or clip to a blank white. Conversely, where a surface reflects too little light, it will fall beyond the system's lower limit and crash to an overall black tone. The average brightness of the lens image falling onto the chip is primarily determined by the lens aperture or f-stop. The goal is to adjust the aperture so that the most important tones, usually people's faces, are clearly visible. This process is called adjusting the exposure. Correct exposure is a subjective choice. Module 3. Camera and parts. Viewfinder. A viewfinder is a small video monitor that allows the camera operator to view the images in the shot. There are basically three types of viewfinders for cameras: an ENG or EFP viewfinder, a studio viewfinder, and a swing out LCD screen. The viewfinder is usually mounted to the camera body so that the camera may be either handheld or tripod mounted. A viewfinder is simply a small video monitor, similar to a home television receiver, except that it is wired directly to the camera and does not contain RP circuits to take signals from the air. Most cameras have small signal lights mounted inside the viewfinder hood so that you can monitor the operational characteristics of the camera without taking your eye from the viewfinder. Most viewfinders are mounted on the left side of the camera, making it difficult for a person who uses the left eye predominantly to operate the camera. People who wear eyeglasses also often may experience difficulties in looking into the viewfinder. The majority of viewfinders include contrast and brightness controls for adjusting the monitor in the viewfinder. These controls should not be adjusted except when the camera is either focused on a well-lit test pattern or is generating an internal test pattern called CO or bars. If adjustments are attempted while shooting anything other than a test pattern, the viewfinder may be incorrectly adjusted in attempting to compensate for a poorly lit subject. The image sensor. The type of image sensor in a camera greatly affects the quality of the image in its resolution or definition, picture defects and limitations. Most video cameras today are fitted with charge coupled device or CCD image sensors. The CCD is small, compact, rugged and consumes a low amount of power. A less frequently used but rapidly growing type of image sensor is a complementary metal oxide semiconductor or CMOS. So, you can see in the figure, CMOS chips traditionally have been more susceptible to noise. However, the technology in this area has significantly improved. CMOS chips consume as much as 100 times less power than a CCD and cost less to produce. However, CCDs have have been used for a much longer period of time and so are much more mature. Historically, they tended to have a much higher quality, but the CMOS has caught up. There are several types of sizes of image sensors. These chips typically include hundreds of thousands of tiny independent cells called pixels or elements. Each cell develops an electrical charge according to the strength of the light that falls on it. The result is an overall pattern of electrical charges that correspond to the light and shade in the lens image. Color temperature. You have probably heard the phrase painting with light. How about the term red hot and white hot? These are many other phrases refer to the use of color temperature in still photography and cinematography. Color temperature is a crucial component on any scene in a video because it not only serves as a distinct tone of the shot, but also invokes a certain type of feeling or a mood among the audiences. It is important to note that changes in color temperature seen by the human eye are not necessarily seen the same way through a camera. When shooting outdoors in bright sunlight, you need to adjust the color temperature to represent the colors you see accurately on a tape. Then, when you move indoors, you will need to readjust the color temperature again to match what you see this time accurately on tape. This process of adjustment is called white balancing. The color temperature setting in your video camera tells it how it should see white. Once properly adjusted, the camera sees the color white as white and then adjusts for all the other colors accordingly. Color temperature is usually measured in degree Kelvin or K. Most often you will be using either one of these two light sources, daylight that is of 5600 Kelvin when shooting outside and tungsten that is 3200 K when shooting inside. A light source with a higher color temperature has more blue light than a light source with a lower color temperature. This means that higher color temperatures that is over 5000 Kelvin are considered cool, while lower color temperatures that is under 5000 Kelvin are considered warm. What is white balance? White balance is a camera control that adjusts the camera's color sensitivity to match the prevailing color of outdoor light, cooler, indoor light, warmer or fluorescent light, greener. On most cameras, white balance may be set either automatically or manually. On professional cameras, white balance can be set to match exactly the light source you are shooting with. White balance basically means color balance. It is a function which gives the camera a reference to true white. It tells the camera what the color white looks like so that the camera will record it correctly. Since white light is the sum of all other colors, the camera will then display all colors correctly. Black balance is an operation similar to white balance. As white balance gives the camera a reference to true white, black balance gives a reference to true black. This function is normally available only in professional cameras. Hand-holding the camera. In handling a motion media camera, two words you must keep in mind are steadiness and smoothness. When you are shooting motion media, the camera must be held steady and deliberate camera movements such as tilts, pans, dollies, zooming and so on must be made smoothly. Tripod. A tripod offers a compact, convenient method of holding a camera steady, provided it is used properly. It has three legs of independently adjustable length that are spread apart to provide a stable base for the camera. A tripod provides stability against downward forces and horizontal forces and movements about horizontal axis. The positioning of the three legs away from the vertical center allows the tripod better leverage for resisting lateral forces. Tripods are usually made from aluminum, carbon fiber, steel, wood or plastic. Tripods are used for both still and motion photography to prevent camera movement. They are necessary when slow speed exposures are being made or when lenses of extreme focal length are used, as any camera movement while the shutter is open will produce a blurred image. In the same vein, they reduce camera shake and thus are instrumental in achieving maximum sharpness. A tripod is also helpful in achieving precise framing of the image, or when more than one image is being made of the same scene, for example, when bracketing the exposure. Use of a tripod may also allow for a more thoughtful approach to photography. For all of these reasons, a tripod of some sort is often necessary for professional photography as well as certain video uses. The rolling tripod or tripod dolly. One practical disadvantage of the tripod is that the camera operator cannot move it around while shooting. However, tripods can use a tripod dolly, a set of wheels that fit directly on the tripod or a wheeled base called a camera dolly, to become a rolling tripod. Although it sounds obvious, before moving a rolling dolly, remember to check that there is no cable or obstruction in the camera's path. It sometimes helps to give a slight push to align the casters in the appropriate direction before the dolly begins. Otherwise, the video image may bump a little as the tripod starts to move. The monopod. The monopod is an easily carried, lightweight mounting. It consists of a collapsible metal tube of adjustable length that screws to the camera base. The extendable tube can be set to any convenient length. Braced against a knee, foot or leg, the monopod can provide a firm support for the camera, yet allow the operator to move it around rapidly for a new viewpoint. Its main disadvantage is that it is easy to accidentally lean the camera sideways and get sloping horizons. And of course, the monopod is not self-supporting. Let us summarize. This chapter gives you an overview to understand the basics of videography, different types of video cameras, lenses and the equipment used for camera movements. Video cameras are outfitted many different lenses to give a respectable range from wide angle to a normal to telephoto. The full range of these can be witnessed by zooming the lens. In handling a motion media camera, two words you must keep in mind are steadiness and smoothness. The area in front of the camera that appears sharp in the frame is called depth of field. Depth of field is defined as the range of acceptable focus on a shot. The aperture is the opening at the rear of the lens that determines how much light travels through the lens and falls on the image sensor. Every video camera requires a certain amount of light to function effectively and produce quality images. A tripod offers a compact, convenient method of holding a camera steady, provided it is used properly. Now, some assignments for you. First, explain in detail various parts of a video camera with diagram. Another, lens is very important in any video camera system. Elucidate. One more, explain the functions of tripod in handling a video camera. Now, some books for reference. Video Production Handbook by Gerald Millerson and Jim Owens. One more, Video Basics 6th edition, Herbert Settle. And one more, Cinematography Introduction, Camera Angles and Shots by James Carlson. With that, we conclude this session on the fundamentals of videography. We'll meet you again in another session with a newer topic. Till then, goodbye.